How's it going, Pokemon fans? CJ from JollyMonz YouTube channel, and today it's gonna be a little bit different. Usually we would do a deck profile and some games in the same day, two different videos, but there's not gonna be any games with this today. I'll explain that as I start to go into the actual deck list itself. And since it's only going to be the one video, just the deck profile, I went ahead and just upload it on a different day. Usually it's just as of now, usually it's just Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Go ahead and give a little bit of extra stuff today, since there won't be any games with the deck. But Drew Kennett made 8th place at San Jose Regionals with a deck that I just adore. Wailord. This is one of my favorite fun decks to play. Like, I probably wouldn't, well, actually, I mean, obviously you can take it to like a big event, but this is usually something that I play when I just feel like having fun. I love this deck, so I'm pretty excited to be talking about it. We got, of course, Wailord-EX, attack, ability, irrelevant. It's just a basic Pokemon with 250 HP, and that's literally all it is in this deck. And then Wishy-Washy, again, attacks are irrelevant. It's just a 210 basic. What you're trying to do with this deck is you're trying to dig out your opponent. You're not attacking, you're not dealing any damage or anything. You're just waiting for your opponent to not be able to draw any more cards. Now, the reason that we're just doing a deck profile is his list, 4 tropical beaches. It has, and I can completely understand why. Like, you're not using attacks, so there's really no downside to this card. It's literally just draw 4 card. It's usually draw up to 7, and then you don't get to attack, but you aren't going to attack anyway, so who really cares about that? And that's the reason why I'm not doing a deck profile with it today, is because I don't have 4 beaches online. And like, usually people say like, oh, what can you replace this with? But in a deck like this, there really is no replacement for Tropical Beach. As sad it is to say, like, there's really nothing. Like, you can replace it with other draw supporters, but there's no like exact replacement that's gonna do the same thing. Or like, there's not even anything that'll do close to it. So that's why there's no games today, just a deck profile. But yeah, it does play 4 beach. Again, you can play the deck without beaches, but he thought it would be a good idea to put in beaches, and I agree with that. If you have them, go ahead and use them. And I actually did read the article that he posted about it. I'll go ahead and put a link to that down in the description. You can always keep your hand full of disruption, because usually you will run out eventually, because you're playing like 1 or 2 cards a turn. You're only drawing a card a turn, unless you're using draw supporters. So you can just like run out of disruption cards, and then your opponent could just take over and win the game from there. But with Tropical Beach in your hand, you can always make sure at the end of your turn you have a fresh hand of 7. And then another thing is, like, when you're disrupting your opponent so much, they will also, like, they can also use your Tropical Beach to try to like get themselves back into the game, but then they're drawing more cards. They're essentially losing less life, because when playing against the Wailord deck, your deck is your life. Like, once you run out of cards in your deck, you lose. So when you're disrupting their stuff, they might want to use Tropical Beach more often, but then they're getting themselves closer to deck out. I went ahead and I kind of went off track with that. It might be a little bit a longer deck profile today, just because. And then he did play 1 Hoopa, which I never thought of before, but it actually seems like it could come in handy. Prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's GX or EX Pokemon. So if there's ever a situation where your opponent is only playing those Pokemon, they just can't deal damage to this. At that point, they have to use Guzma to bring up stuff on your bench and knock that out. Or they have to just do stuff. They have to do damage to your bench with like Coco or Ninetales or whatever. But then like, you're forcing them to like play around a really inconvenient thing, and at the time they might just not be able to. Or, like, if you know what they're doing, you start off with Hoopa, they don't have any other Pokemon to play against you, you just don't play anything else on your board, and then they can't do anything. And that's all the Pokemon. There's only 6 Pokemon in the whole deck, and then there's 0 energy, so then there are 54 trainers. And I'm going to go to the trainers a little bit differently. Obviously, there's like your healing cards, first of all, to keep your stuff from getting knocked out. You got, of course, 4 Max Potion, no energy in the deck, so there's really no downside to this card. You just heal your damage for free. You got your Acerola. If one of your Pokemon's damaged, you just pick it up, put it back in play. All the damage counters are gone. Easy peasy. Same thing with AZ, except it doesn't need damage on it. You just pick something up, and you can put it right back down, and it's completely healed. And then that's really all the healing cards for this. Of course, since you're using AZ and Acerola, which are supporters, you can use your Versus Seekers to bring them back. You can use your Puzzle at times to bring back your supporters or your Max Potions. And again, you can just use these. You use Versus Seeker or Puzzles for anything in this deck. So like your Energy Disruption, your healing, anything. You can just bring it back with Versus Seeker or Puzzle. But those are like the main healing cards of the deck. There's also a lot of Energy Disruption in this deck. There's 3 Crushing Hammer. Flip coin, it feds, discard an energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. It doesn't always hit something, but it's an item that gets rid of any energy. That can come in handy sometimes. You have 3 Enhanced Hammer. There is 3, right? Yeah, 3 Enhanced Hammer. Decent amount of special energy in the format. It can only get rid of special energy. So strong energy, DCE, stuff like that. And it can get rid of it on any Pokemon, which is pretty relevant sometimes. I forgot to mention that Palpad also gets back any of your supporters. So like your Acerolas, or the card I'm about to mention, which is Team Flare Grunt. It's a supporter, but it gets rid of any energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So you can easily just like go a Hammer, a Flare Grunt, that's 2 energy in 1 turn. Pretty simple stuff. The other energy disruption we have in the deck is Plumeria. That's it. You discard 2 cards from your hand and discard 1 energy from your opponent's Pokemon. One of the main things that makes this good over Team Flare Grunt is that Team Flare Grunt only hits your opponent's active, and then Plumeria hits stuff on the bench. That's the main difference. And then that's pretty much all. Well, no, there is also ones that are also get rid of a special energy, or you can get rid of Tool if the situation calls for. And then there's also just like generically good cards in the deck. Like that's the main thing. Is oh, this kind of counts as energy disruption too. Your opponent reveals their hand, you discard 2 energy from there. So it kind of just gets it. If they're there in the hand, you get rid of 2 energy that they just can't even play anymore. And then I'm gonna go ahead and go through the rest of these cards just in general. Like these are just the generally good cards that don't really serve a specific purpose. Dowsing Machine, you can get back one trainer from your discard pile just by discarding 2 cards. You can get back any of your healing stuff, any of your energy disruption, just anything. Besides, of course, your Pokemon. Plays a 1 of Heavy Ball. Your Pokemon have pretty big retreat costs, 4 energy retreat costs, 3 energy retreat costs. I think this this has 2. So Heavy Ball just gets 1 of these. I did notice that there were people asking why he just doesn't use Nest Ball instead. Mostly just for the fact that you can play this even when you have a full bench, just to thin your deck a little bit. Like if you for some reason had Hoopa, Wishy. No, I remember what I'm going at now. There's also another kind of Pokemon in the deck, and that's Robo Substitute. 30 HP, but if it's knocked out, your opponent doesn't take a prize card for it. So if there's ever a situation where like you have some of these on your bench, your Wishy-Washy, your Hoopa, a Wailord, and your bench is full, but there's still Pokemon in your deck, you can play the Heavy Ball, grab whatever. You don't have to put it in play. Thins out your deck a little bit. Pretty good stuff. I mentioned the Palpad earlier. Gets 2 supporters back from your discard pile. Put them into your deck. It does play 1 Starling Megaphone. Discards all tools attached to the opponent's Pokemon. get rid of choice bands, finding fury belts, or choice bands, muscle bands. That's what I'm thinking of. Get rid of all their all the stuff that's buffing their damage. He did have one parallel city, which does make sense. You can either reduce some of your opponent's damage, or you can just go ahead and shrink their bench down. So like if you're playing something like Zoroark, you can just put them down to 3 Pokemon. They're only doing 80 damage now. Or if you are playing something that's Fire, Water, Grass, you can put it there, reduce their damage by 20. One thing I did actually forget to mention, one of the reasons the Wishy-Washy is in here is because Wailord is weak to grass, which means he is weak to Golisopod. I'm sure that probably isn't the only reason that this is in here, but this can avoid getting one-shot by Golisopod, whereas Golisopod just one-shots Wailord. So that could come in handy. In fact, I'm pretty sure that is the main reason why it's in there. One of Parallel City. He was a pretty decent draw card. It draws you up to 5, and then if your opponent has more than 5, they discard until they have 5. Could come in handy if your opponent is getting like too far ahead in card advantage. There is a Lusamine. Putting 2 combination of support or stadium cards from your discard pile into your hand. So in this scenario where we play the Parallel City and they get rid of it, we only play 1. We can use the Lusamine to get it back to our hand, and then just grab some more of our Disruption or whatever. You know, grab our Acerola, grab our Team Flare Grunt, whatever. There is one of Lysander, and the main point of this is to just bring up something with a fat retreat cost that doesn't have any energy on it. Mostly just the big retreat. You bring that up, keep the energy off it so they can't attack. Hopefully they don't find a float stone. And you just keep this big Pokemon that they can't do anything with in the active. And of course you can always recycle it with Versus Seeker, or Puzzles, or the Lusamine, the Pal Pad, any of that. There's a one of Fan Club. Search for 2 basic Pokemon, reveal them, put them in your hand. So you can just grab any of these, put them in your hand, put them right on the bench, and just keep going. There is, I already got 3 Skyla. So anytime you can grab your Max Potion, you can grab one of your hammers, you can grab a puzzle. This is a really versatile card in this deck. Actually, you can just grab anything, but ideally you want to grab something to play that turn. I mean, if you need to draw a supporter, you can play Skyla for that and then play it the following turn. But I think ideally you go for like Max Potion or a puzzle at a time. That's usually what I've done when I played with a list similar to this. I went over the Team Flare Grunt, I went over these. And then one thing that's going to help you win just a little bit faster, because waiting for your opponent to draw through a 60 card deck, if they know what they're doing, it's going to be pretty long game, is you play 2 Rocket's Handiwork, flip 2 coins, and for each heads they discard the top 2 cards of their deck. Now alone that's not a lot, but when you play like these 2, you use 1 or 2 Versus Seeker to grab them back, you pick 1 or 2 off puzzle times. It gets to be a lot. You can easily go through like 10, 15, 20 cards through your opponent's deck with just Rocket's Handiwork. I think 20 is a little bit of an exaggeration, but you kind of get my idea. It makes your opponent go through the deck a lot faster. So yeah, that's really like the main point of this deck, is like you put up this big Pokemon with like 200 plus HP. You're not trying to attack, you're just discarding all of your opponent's energy. You're making sure they can't attack you. When they do get to attack you, you just soak up as much damage as you can without getting knocked out, and then you just immediately heal all the damage and get rid of everything they've done until they just can't draw any more cards, and then you win. So that's going to be all for this video. Like I said earlier on, there's not going to be a video where we play games with the deck, because this list has 4 Tropical Beach, and I don't have beaches yet, online or in person. It'll happen one day, maybe. But that's going to be all for the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, stay jolly.